At a family gathering, my sil shoved me down the stairs after I used her bathroom. "How dare you use my bathroom, dirty girl." And shockingly, no one stepped in to help me, and I fainted when I regained consciousness. No one was with me when I recovered. I returned home. I was shocked after seeing that. Hi, I'm Susan. Before diving into what unfolded at our family barbecue, don't forget to like and subscribe for more engaging stories like this one. Now, let me set the scene for you. It was a warm, sunlit day, and the backyard was alive with laughter, the mouth-watering sizzle of burgers on the grill, and the of cheerful conversations. My husband, Paul, and I were hosting our annual family barbecue at his parents' house, a tradition that always brought everyone together for good food and even better memories. It was the kind of gathering where people felt completely at ease, catching up over chilled drinks and plates piled high with home-cooked treats. "Susan, can you pass the potato salad?" Paul called out as he expertly flipped a burger on the grill. "Sure thing," I replied, navigating through clusters of family members lounging on the grass and in picnic chairs. Near the grill, Paul's sister, Nancy, stood slightly apart from the lively scene. She was watching everything from a distance, her posture reserved. Nancy had always been a little particular about her space, especially here at her parents' home, where she still kept a room, even though she no longer lived there. "Hey, Nancy, why don't you join us for a game of cornholes?" I suggested, hoping to coax her into the fun. "No thanks, Susan. I'm just enjoying the view from here," she replied, offering a polite smile. But there was something about her expression, a flicker of tension hidden behind her otherwise calm demeanor. I decided not to push her further and let her be. As the afternoon progressed, the downstairs bathroom became a busy hub with a steady line of people waiting their turn. Feeling the need for a quick escape from the growing crowd, I remembered the quieter, rarely used bathroom upstairs. Excusing myself, I slipped into the house, grateful for the temporary silence as I ascended the stairs. The cool air inside the house was a welcome change, and the noise of the barbecue outside faded into a muffled hazz. As I reached the top of the stairs, I noticed faint music drifting from Nancy's old room. It was a private retreat, a space she had always treated like a sanctuary. Curious but not wanting to intrude, I continued to the bathroom. The upstairs bathroom was a hidden gem with intricate tilework and lush plants, giving it a serene, spa-like atmosphere, a stark contrast to the more functional bathroom downstairs. I took a moment to appreciate the calm. After a quick wash, I lingered for a few seconds longer, savoring the peaceful solitude before returning to the lively chaos of the barbecue below. Little did I know, this brief interlude would soon lead to an unexpected discovery that would change the tone of the entire day. I stepped out of the bathroom feeling refreshed. Suddenly, Nancy appeared at the end of the hallway, her face twisted with anger. "Susan, what the hell do you think you're doing?" she snapped. Startled, I stammered. "I just needed to use the bathroom. The other one was busy, and I thought, this is my bathroom," she interrupted, her voice sharp. "You have no right to just barge in here whenever you feel like it." "Nancy, it's just a bathroom," I replied, trying to stay calm. "I didn't think it would be a problem." "I'm sorry if I upset you." Her eyes narrowed, her voice colder now. "You should have waited downstairs. You know how I feel about my space." Trying to diffuse the situation, I responded softly, "I understand, Nancy, but it was urgent. I didn't mean to invade your space." Her reaction came out of nowhere. Without warning, she gave me a push. I stumbled backward, my feet slipping, and the world tilted around me. My arms flailed, searching for balance, but there was nothing to grab onto. I fell backward toward the stairs. The last thing I remembered was the sound of my own scream echoing off the walls before everything went black. What started as a simple act of using the bathroom had escalated into a nightmare. I lay crumpled at the bottom of the stairs, pain radiating through my arm and head. The distant of the barbecue faded further into the background as my world spun with confusion and agony. Above me, Nancy stood frozen at the top of the stairs, her face a mix of shock and defiance. "You pushed her." "I saw it." Paul's voice thundered as he rushed to my side, his hands gently checking me over. His face was a mask of panic and fury. "Nancy, what were you thinking?" Paul's mom exclaimed, her voice trembling with disbelief as she appeared behind Nancy. "It was an accident. She startled me," Nancy replied, her voice shaky, though the edge of anger remained. "An accident?" Paul's voice was sharp with disbelief. "Nancy, she's hurt." His concern turned into anger as he cradled my head gently in his lap. Nancy's tone turned defensive. "I told her not to use my bathroom. She never listens." Her justification fell flat among the growing crowd of concerned family members. "Enough, Nancy. This isn't about a bathroom." "Susan could be seriously injured," Paul's dad said sternly as he pulled out his phone to call for an ambulance. I groaned, the pain searing through my body as the voices around me swirled. The lively barbecue outside had become a distant memory, replaced by the weight of the moment, a moment that had changed everything. I tried to sit up, but a sharp surge of pain shot through my arm, forcing me to cry out. "It's broken," I whisper hoarsely, the words barely audible amidst the chaos around me. "Why would you do this, Nancy?" Paul's aunt demanded, her tone thick with confusion and dismay. She had come outside to see what the commotion was about, and her expression reflected the collective shock of everyone present. Nancy stood frozen, her eyes darting as she murmured, I wanted my space to be respected." Her words were more to herself than to anyone else, as though she was trying to justify her actions internally. The wail of approaching sirens shattered the tense silence that had gripped the backyard. Moments later, paramedics arrived, their presence a blur of efficiency. They stabilized my arm and carefully prepared me for transport. Paul stayed by my side, his hand firmly gripping mine, a silent promise of unwavering support. As I was wheeled toward the ambulance, I caught a fleeting glimpse of Nancy. She stood apart from the others, isolated by her actions. Family members huddled in small clusters, their faces etched with a mixture of anger, shock, and disappointment. The weight of the moment was palpable. "This can't just be brushed under the rug," Paul whispered to his father, his voice carrying a quiet determination. His words struck a chord, making it clear that this incident would leave an indelible mark on our family dynamics. The last image I saw before the ambulance doors closed was Nancy's conflicted face, a mixture of guilt and defiance, and Paul's reassuring gaze, silently telling me that no matter what, we were in this together. The sterile smell of the hospital greeted me as I lay in the bed, the dull ache in my arm mingling with the lingering fog of medication. My head was still spinning from the fall, and the shock of everything that had unfolded. Paul hovered nearby, pacing back and forth, his face a storm of worry and anger. "I can't believe Nancy would go this far. It's insane," he muttered, his voice tinged with disbelief as he continued pacing. "Paul, have you spoken to your parents? What's everyone saying?" My voice was weak, but I needed to know. He paused, running a hand through his hair. "Some are saying it's just a big misunderstanding, that Nancy didn't mean it. But how can anyone justify pushing someone down the stairs?" His voice cracked, the frustration spilling out. I reached for his hand, my gaze steady despite the pain. "I know it's hard. She's your sister. But Paul, she hurt me badly." He sank into the chair beside me, his grip on my hand tightening as he nodded. "I know, and I'm not going to let this slide." His words carried a quiet but fierce determination that made me feel, despite everything, that we would face this together. I tried to sit up, wincing as sharp pain shot through my arm. Paul rushed over and gently eased me back onto the pillows. "I know, Susan. I'm so sorry. I can't wrap my head around it," he said, his voice heavy with guilt. Just then, my phone buzzed with a message from Paul's cousin, Betty. I picked it up and read aloud. "Susan, we're all shocked. Some of the family are siding with Nancy, saying you provoked her by not respecting her boundaries." A surge of frustration washed over me. "Provoked? For using a bathroom? That's absurd," I snapped, shaking my head. Paul squeezed my hand firmly. "I don't care what they say. I'm with you. This isn't something we can just sweep under the rug," he assured me. The door opened, and Dr. Joshua walked in, his expression serious but calm. "How are we feeling, Susan?" he asked, glancing between me and Paul. "Sore," I admitted, trying to manage a weak smile. "We've got your x-rays back," he continued. "You have a clean break in your forearm, but thankfully no serious head injuries. We're setting you up for a cast, and you'll need plenty of rest." "Thank you, doctor. Do you know when I can go home?" I asked, eager to leave the hospital and regain a sense of normalcy. "If everything looks good overnight, you should be able to go home tomorrow. We just want to monitor you to make sure there are no complications from the concussion." As Dr. Joshua left, Paul sat down next to me, his eyes filled with concern. "We need to decide what we're going to do about Nancy. This can't go on." I nodded, feeling the weight of the situation settle on my shoulders. "Paul, this isn't just about me anymore. It's about making sure this doesn't happen to someone else. Nancy needs help. Real help." "You're right," he agreed, his voice steady. "I'll talk to my parents again. This isn't just a family squabble. It's serious." As night fell, the soft beeping of the hospital machines accompanied my racing thoughts. The events of the day played over and over in my mind. Tomorrow I'd finally go home, but I knew the real healing, both for my body and for our family, was just beginning. Back at home, the living room was tense. The usual chatter was replaced by a heavy silence as we gathered for the family meeting Paul had arranged. He stood at the center, determined to address what had happened and ensure it was never repeated. The room was packed, every seat filled, and a heavy tension hung in the air. All eyes occasionally darted toward the one empty chair, the one reserved for Nancy. When she finally entered, the atmosphere seemed to chill. Her presence sent ripples of discomfort through the group. "You didn't need to call everyone like this, Paul," Nancy muttered, avoiding eye contact as she took her seat. Paul's usual easygoing demeanor was nowhere to be seen. His voice was firm as he spoke. "We're here because what you did to Susan is unacceptable, Nancy. You hurt her badly, and we need to talk about it." Grandma's voice trembled as she asked, "Nancy, why did you push Susan?" I can't believe it." Nancy's tone was defensive as she crossed her arms. "It was an accident. I've told everyone 1,000 times. She invaded my space, and I reacted. That's it." I gathered my strength and spoke, my conviction outweighing my physical weakness. "That's not just it, Nancy. You could have seriously hurt me, or worse. A bathroom isn't worth risking someone's safety." "How can you justify hurting someone over something so trivial?" Uncle Timothy chimed in, his brow furrowed in confusion. "Nancy, this doesn't make sense. A bathroom? You're talking about boundaries, but you crossed one that's far more important." Nancy shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her bravado faltering. "I told her before about using my things. She never listens." I shook my head, my voice steady. "I didn't know using a bathroom would lead to me being hospitalized. Nancy, we need to feel safe around each other. If we can't, what kind of family are we?" My words seemed to resonate. Around the room, heads nodded in agreement. Paul added, "It's about respect, Nancy. What if something worse had happened? Would you still call it protecting your personal space?" Nancy's eyes darted around the room, meeting the gazes of family members. For once, her usual bravado was gone. She looked small, diminished by the weight of her actions. No one was on her side. I didn't think it was that serious," she mumbled, her voice barely audible. Paul shook his head, his tone calm but resolute. "It is serious, Nancy. This isn't just about a bathroom. It's about how we treat each other, about understanding and respecting boundaries that matter." The room fell silent. Nancy's face reflected a mixture of guilt and realization. This wasn't something that could be brushed off or forgotten. It was a moment of reckoning, not just for her, but for the entire family. I kept my gaze steady on Nancy, refusing to back down. "You all are making this a bigger deal than it needs to be," she said, her voice sharp and offensive. She abruptly stood, her chair clattering loudly as it fell backward. "This is exactly the problem, Nancy. Even now, you're not taking responsibility for your actions," Paul said, his voice heavy with disappointment. Without another word, Nancy stormed out, the door slamming shut behind her with a resounding echo that seemed to linger in the room. The remaining family members exchanged uneasy glances, the tension giving way to a bittersweet mix of relief and sadness. Paul reached for my hand, his touch warm and comforting. "We'll sort this out, Susan. Together," he whispered softly. As the family began discussing ways to heal and move forward, there was a shared understanding that this moment, as painful as it was, had brought clarity to what truly mattered: respect, accountability, and unity. Weeks passed, and my recovery progressed steadily. Paul stayed by my side every step of the way, his unwavering support making all the difference. Our bond, tested and forged through this adversity, felt stronger than ever. Conversations about Nancy grew less frequent. Her presence in our lives seemed to fade naturally, much like the autumn leaves falling from the trees outside. One evening, as Paul and I sat together on the porch enjoying the crisp, refreshing air, he broke the silence. "I heard Nancy lost her job," he said, his voice tinged with both sadness and resignation. "Really? What happened?" My curiosity was piqued despite my efforts to distance myself from her. "Apparently, there was some kind of altercation at work. Her temper got the better of her again," Paul explained, sighing deeply. "A few of her friends have stepped back from her too. It's sad, really. I wish it didn't have to come to all this." I nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe this is the wake-up call she needs. Sometimes, hitting rock bottom is what makes people reflect and change." Paul looked at me, the disappointment still visible in his expression. "Yeah, maybe. How are you feeling about everything now?" His eyes searched mine, looking for any signs of lingering pain. I took a deep breath before answering. "Stronger in many ways. It's strange, but facing that kind of betrayal from someone you thought was family, it forces you to reevaluate things. It makes you realize how important it is to stand up for yourself and what you deserve." Paul nodded, his hand finding mine again. "You're amazing, Susan. I'm proud of you." Together, we sat in silence, the peaceful night surrounding us, both of us knowing that while healing would take time, we were moving forward stronger and more united than ever. I paused for a moment, letting the quietness around us sink in. Paul reached for my hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "Are we good?" he asked gently. "Better than good," I replied. His smile mirrored the peace I felt in my heart. "This whole ordeal made me realize just how lucky I am to have you," he added, his words filling me with a deep sense of gratitude. As days turned into weeks, the ripple effects of Nancy's actions became clear. Her choices had left her isolated from the people she once held dear. It was a harsh reality, but one she brought upon herself. One afternoon, my mom called. "I just wanted to check on you, sweetheart, and tell you that we've all learned a lot from what happened. It's brought us closer and reminded us of what's truly important." "I feel the same way, Mom," I said, my voice firm with conviction. It's been a tough lesson, but a necessary one. Reflecting on everything, I recognized how vital self-respect and personal boundaries are. The situation with Nancy had tested my resolve, but it also highlighted the resilience of not just an individual, but a family determined to address toxic behavior head-on. Sitting beside Paul, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Life would move forward, and while the scars of the past remained, they stood as reminders of battles fought and won against negativity, against toxicity. These scars represented a commitment to creating a safer, healthier, and happier future for ourselves. As I turned my gaze to the setting sun, a profound realization washed over me. This wasn't just the end of a painful chapter, it was the beginning of something new and better, forged through the lessons of our past. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about setting personal boundaries within a family? Is there a point where enforcing these boundaries can go too far, or should personal space always be respected no matter the context? Please share your opinions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story and want more content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue sharing stories that spark meaningful conversations.